Welcome, everyone, to Reflect and Recharge, where we end the year well and start next year with intention. Thank you for being here with me. I'm MA, and this is Sana. We're co-hosting this webinar for you. Very excited to be with you today. Hi, Sana. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
If you are
Hi.
joining us, hi, Kimmy. Hi, everyone. If you're joining us, that's great. We really welcome you to come off mute if you have questions, if you want to ask, if you want to make a comment. You can also drop questions in the chat. And this is going to be recorded so you can watch again at your leisure and go back over this and see things that you might have missed. You don't have to take notes for that. But if we're talking, if you could mute yourself during that time, it would be appreciated. And really just jump in. It's going to be a casual session. We're going to have you in and out within this hour with some really valuable tools and resources to end your year well and start next year with intention. So our idea here is that we want to go from running on empty at the end of the year to feeling anchored and intentional so that you can finish this year with clarity and energy rather than crawling to the finish line like so many of us are doing at this time of year. One thing that we keep hearing from teachers in our work, both Sana and I were in agreement on this, whether you're an early years teacher, primary or secondary, is that you're probably carrying the full weight of your classroom, doing a lot of the thinking, the prompting, deciding. It's all on you, and that can be exhausting. So part of this session is about giving you some ideas, some small ways that you can reset that and thinking about how to do that at the beginning of next year so that you can start off on the right foot, whether that's through building relationships or creating routines and strategies that will help you build ownership in your classroom, share that responsibility for learning with your students. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with outcomes, and Sana's going to lead us through that. Go.
Thank you, Emma. So, as we draw close to the end of the year, we would really like you guys to give yourself the space to truly pause and not just to catch your breath, but to honor the progress that you've made. Whether it was a strategy that boosted student agency or a new way of leading meetings or simply just showing up for colleagues each day, these are not just minor wins, but they're signals of growth. So we really want you guys to recognize that and honor that and acknowledge it. Reflection isn't just about what's perfect, it's about identifying what was meaningful, what was effective, and what is worth carrying into the next school year. Some of the questions that we would like you guys to keep in mind as we go through this is, what are the practices that moved learning forward for me? What routines brought consistency, clarity, or joy to my classroom and to my students? And what are those small decisions that really created big ripples? Another outcome that we would like you guys to keep in mind is reconnecting with your values and purpose. In the rush of the deadlines and the KPIs and the meeting objectives, we just finished our entire cycle of objectives and appraisals for our school. It's really easy to drift away from the why behind why we do the work that we do. So before you transition into the summer, take a moment to really ask, what kind of an educator or a leader do I want to be? What legacy am I building with my daily choices? Reconnect with those core values that really ground you, whether it's equity or excellence or compassion or creativity or curiosity. What is it that you're really, fostering in your students as well? These values are your compass. So we just want to remind you guys to go back to that and not lose sight of that. These values really will help you, your own values will help you recalibrate when the system sort of pulls you away in different directions, which happens to all of us. And, let them shape how you show up, what you advocate for, and where you pour your energy into. So we really want you guys to think about that and use this session, to pause and reflect and take it in as a breather. And we will also, be giving you some simple takeaway tools to help you build relationships and ownership. And we would have a light touch goal grounded in what matters to you. Emma, did you want to say anything more about these two outcomes?
Yes, we're going to share with you some routine strategies that you can do at the beginning of next year to build that ownership. And we're really excited. Sana and I've picked some of our favorites to share with you. And if you stick with us until the end, we're going to drop that wonderful goal setting tool that you can use as you make your professional goal when you come back in August, September, whenever you start. So stick with us till then. You'll not want to miss that. It's a really great way to align your vision and mission with your school's vision. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here. I'm MA and I'm a teaching and learning coach. I've been a classroom teacher for over 28 years, and I work with teachers to help end disengagement in the classroom and build student ownership. And that's the kind of work I do in my coaching with my Teach Spark business and with teachers in my school, my coaching piece of that. But so many years I have as a classroom teacher ended the year in a complete mess, kind of exhausted, a little bit scared about next year. What am I going to be teaching? What's my load going to look like? What's my schedule going to look like? And beating myself up about what I didn't get done, what I didn't cover, what I regret doing or not doing with my students, and also feeling kind of unsure about what actually stuck with my students, what did they actually get out of that year, and then bracing myself for the next term. So very tense, very frenetic and chaotic. At some point I realized that if I don't close the year on purpose, I'm dragging all of that uncertainty into the next year when I come back. Because if you're like me, at the end of these next few weeks here, we're going to come home, drop our backpack in the corner and not open it until August or September. And we're carrying that with us. We won't have made any movement. So it's important to finish that year well. Now I treat the end of the year as an anchor, something that I can come back to, so that my summer break is not just a break, but a bridge into what was, into what could be, and what I want to be next year. And that shift changed a lot for me. It helped me to build more positive feelings of self-worth. It helped me to reduce the stress in the beginnings and endings, as we so many of teachers have, and also improve my cognitive resilience. That gives me that clarity. So now I absolutely make this a must in my year, my end of the year. And when I met Sana, we were like, oh, we both do that. Let's do that together. So we're going to do that together with you here. This is our time as well, where we're going to be putting that cap on the end of our year as we move into the summer vacation. Go ahead, Sana.
Thanks, Ame. So I am Sana, and I am an assistant principal at an international IB World School, and I'm also a curriculum and leadership consultant and coach. And like many of you, I've ended the school year, like Ame said, with a mix of fatigue, a little bit of pride in everything that I had accomplished, and at the end of it all, a heavy mental checklist of all the things that I could have done better, because that's how, teachers are. When we work in a school, we're constantly thinking about what could be better. I used to roll straight into the summer without really processing the year or giving myself that time to stop and think. I would just, pack my bags and, as an expat living overseas, we would just get right into it. And then when we come back, I realized, and this is what we were talking about together, Emma and I, that we realized that this is not the best way to end, and there is a better way, which we both trialed. And we said that when we paused and we took that time to really think about what could be better, and what is that what seed is that we would like to plant on this side of the holiday that we can pick up when we come back. Because when we close the year with intention and purpose and clarity, we don't just end well, we also begin better. So we want to take this opportunity to really reiterate this to you guys as well, and give you some practical tools on how to do this.
I love that, Sana. I think we were talking before about you said it's kind of ending the year in a huff and how we don't want to
Mhm.
be doing that. So this is our chance to do it. Okay, let's take a breather. Go.
All right, so I have this little story that I always, say in teams or when I'm presenting at conferences and whatnot. This is a little personal story. When I was a little girl, I loved being a teacher. So I used to role play being a teacher with my little chalkboard that my parents had bought me, and my little pieces of chalk. And I used to, put little chairs in front of me and put my little sister there and my little cousins there. And I would be, just being, I loved being that boss and that, up in front and center, because that's what I thought teaching was all about. And I was just so passionate about it. And of course, when I grew up, I went into teaching. What I didn't realize is that there's so much other stuff that comes along with teaching. So nobody ever told me about the markings that I would have to do, and the report cards that I would have to write, and the planning that I would have to do, and the parents that I would have to deal with. So all of these things came along with the stuff that you're passionate about. And same thing with when I became a curriculum coordinator in the school that I'm at. I was so passionate about curriculum, and I still am. But nobody ever told me that it comes with, team dynamics and people holding on to the way they, always planned, and the different shifts that happen in schools, and all this other stuff that I wasn't so passionate about. So the reason why I always tell this story is because sometimes when you love what you do, it also comes with a lot of other things that you don't love doing. But that's okay. That's just how it works. And that's, how the reality is of many of our situations. So we don't want you to lose hope in what, why you started. So always go back to why you actually started and the purpose, because that's what will ground you into, coming together and showing up every single day and doing the good work that you always do. So this isn't just a PD, it's a pause. And some of the things that we promise to do in this PD is we promise a reflective space for you to just think and take it all in. We also promise to give you two simple tools to do this, because we can all talk, but if we don't have something concrete in our hands, then it doesn't get done. So we will make sure to drop in some simple tools that you can use and take away after this PD, and a chance to feel more grounded heading into the summer. So these are some things that, we hope to accomplish today. Thanks, MA.
Wonderful. Sure. Thank you, Sana. Before you start looking ahead at next year, we're going to ask you to take a pause and look backwards. So grab some paper, something to write with, or maybe you just want to type it out. We should have warned you about that before, but you're going to need a little bit of paper for these next few activities, and something to write with. We're going to be writing for about 5 minutes on what worked well this past year. A really, really important piece that many teachers don't take the time to do, but very, very important, which is to look at your wins. What did go well? What can I be proud of? And we're going to write, I'm going to write, Sana's going to write for about 5 minutes. I'll put the timer on. Feel free to come off of your camera if you don't want to be, we'll give you that privacy just to have a little write. At the end, if you want to share it out, feel free to come off mute and do that, or you can just write something in the chat. But we're going to write for 5 minutes on one of these prompts, helping us to feel grateful, gratitude of the amazing teachers we already are and were this year. So go ahead and give that a try, and we will be back in 5 minutes. Go. Take one more minute. Okay, finish up what you're writing. Again, if you wanted to share, you can drop that in the chat, and Sana's going to be having a look at that, sharing out some of those moments. For me, I was writing about when my grade 12 media comm students were doing their oral defense in their final exam, and I had to listen to them talk about what they learned that year and kind of make a case for their final exam. And just listening to all the things they were talking about, the things they learned, how they grew, that was a real moment of, shared responsibility. It felt like I we did the right thing this year, and so that made me really happy. So it's something I'm really proud of, and I'm gonna be carrying that through the summer into next year, and I hope you were finding some moments like that too.
One of the
Okay.
things that, sorry, I mean,
Go
I
ahead,
was just
Sana.
gonna drop in there. One of the things that I realized as well when I was thinking about that first question is this amazing, reflective meeting that I had with our grade 5 teaching team. We just finished our PYP exhibition, and we just kind of gathered just to have a reflection. And it was just amazing how rich the conversations were moving forward. What went well, what do you think we can do better, and what are we going to do differently? It was just very simple, but then everyone's input, and I realized the power of collaboration. So that definitely I think we can do more of, at us as a school moving forward, just collaborating with each other and reflecting together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. And you can just see just the way we talk about it, smiles on our faces. Like this is something everyone should be doing, is just looking at those moments from this past year and feeling good about the things you have done. So Sana and I have picked out a few of our favorite strategies that we think will do the most in the smallest amount of time to help you to build shared ownership with your students and also relationships as you begin this next year. So yes, we're going to present that to you today, and you can look at this again on replay to get the details, but these are great ways to start next year. Write them down, put them away, and look at them in your pre-service days as you start planning those first weeks. And this is one of my favorites, and it's one of the favorites of the teachers that I coach. They talk to me about how effective this is. And this is called the silent start. This builds ownership really quickly. And I developed this after working with so many teachers who, we all do this. We unintentionally keep students dependent with the way that we start our classes. We usually start those with our energy. We greet the students, we give instructions, we set the tone, we go over the agenda, we tell them to get out their materials, and they stay passive. And the consequence that this has is that like I said, we unintentionally keep students dependent, and students just wait for us to begin. They don't enter into thinking mode. And so ownership becomes delayed from the very, very beginning. So in this strategy, how you start your class is with silence and a prompt. So you put a meaningful question, image, or challenge on the board, and you do not talk, no directions, just thinking, and you keep gently redirecting students to get on with whatever prompt you gave. I'm going to give you some example prompts, so you'll adjust that depending on whether you're an early years primary or secondary teacher. One of my favorite things is, what's one thing you need to focus on today? Really nice for self-regulation, writing 2 things that are important to know about this topic. You can also open that up to provide other ways of engagement for students who might want to draw something, who might want to list, or whatever way they want to express that. Let them do that because this is really their time. This small move signals to your students that the space is theirs as well. It creates room for autonomy and gets their brain working before yours kicks in and starts taking over. So this is a hands down absolutely wonderful. You do not have to plan for this. You do not have to prep it. You just walk in, do this, and starting with them puts them in the driver's seat right away. So that's my first strategy that you can take into your first days back next year. Sana, go.
So another thing that, I come from a concept-based inquiry world because I'm a concept-based consultant as well. So one of the things that I always talk to teachers about is, the idea of the environment as the third teacher. And this comes from Reggio Emilia's philosophy. I don't know if you know the early years philosophy of Reggio Emilia. If you're familiar with it, you would know this. So it's seeing the environment as the third teacher. So you're not constantly the carrier of knowledge. Um, it's you, the students, as well as the environment. So in a truly student-centered school, the environment isn't just a backdrop, it's an active participant in the learning process. Just as the teacher and the students shape how we learn from each other, so does the space around us. So the environment acts as the third teacher. So you've got to see it like that as well. You're going to have to sort of challenge yourself to think beyond the furniture and the displays and really design the learning spaces where even if you were not present or if you were in the background, the classroom is actually carrying the load with you. And that's easier said than done. But some of the questions that you can ask yourself is, what is the space saying to my students? What are the messages that it's giving? Is it mundane and boring? Is it single desks? Or if the desks are sitting together, then it tells you that we learn from each other. So there are messages hidden in the environments that we create. So be cognizant of those messages. Is your classroom encouraging exploration? Are there little magnifying lenses around? Is there space for children to ask questions? Do you have a word wall and a reflection wall and a questions wall where the children can process their thinking and ask questions? Are you reinforcing the concepts that you're building in your lessons? Is it helping learners feel seen, feel safe, and feel stretched in their thinking? Another thing that you can think about is, centering your engagements and your classroom around student ownership. So a thoughtfully prepared environment can really provoke inquiry and spark wonder and reinforce those core concepts that you are, focusing on. So literacy rich corners with some cozy seating, some books that are displayed that are inviting those reluctant readers to join in, not by force but by design. So what are some things that you can do that will help you, instead of you constantly prompting and prodding your students? What is it that the environment can do along with you? So using the environment as a partner, but centering on student ownership. Flexible seating, having surfaces that are writable, which allows students to draw out their thinking maybe on tabletops, or building models on the floor, or rearranging furniture to have flexible seating. Those are some of the examples that you can have, for giving the ownership back to the students and then sharing that cognitive load. Another thing that we wanted to share with you is having purposeful reflection, okay, and valuing that purposeful reflection. So something that I always like to see in classrooms is a visible thinking wall. It could be big huge chart paper that's posted around, and you're constantly reminding the students to go and draw out their thinking, a mind map that the children have, maybe some key conceptual vocabulary that makes the thinking tangible and concrete. Bringing the outdoor inside, maybe having that free flow of the outdoor and the indoor, and going beyond the walls of the classroom, having kinesthetic math, maybe a number line that's painted on the floor, that the children can interact with, or even having like a quiet reflection time, or a quiet zone for reflective writing. So really, sharing the purpose for reflection, and really valuing that in the classroom. The last thing I wanted to talk about is reducing that teacher overload. I love this quote, and this is something that I learned in the concept based inquiry sessions that I was taking. The one who does the most learns the most. So if you're the one who's doing everything in the classroom, then you're the one who's learning. And we all know that that's not our purpose. So, getting the students to really take that cognitive load. And we'll give you lots of strategies today, but one of the things to keep in mind is lots of questioning. So if a child, another thing that comes to mind with the from the early years philosophy is, if a child throws a question at you, bounce it back at them and ask them, what do you think? That's one way of also sharing the load. But focus on depth and not just on covering your curriculum, because that constant rush to cover the curriculum then forces you to really get burnt out. You're not prioritizing the enduring understandings that the children are coming to, or the essential skills that we want children to articulate. We're just kind of ticking through the list, and we don't want that. So the one that does the most learns the most. So get the students to do the thinking and share that cognitive load and do that heavy lifting along with you, so they're kind of on this journey with you as well.
I love that, Sana, the idea of the environment as also being something you can use to build student ownership. It's important how that's set up and how a teacher uses that. So loving that. Do you want to talk to us more about
Yeah.
the conceptual and thinking classrooms ideas? Go.
So, at its heart, if you think about the practices through a conceptual lens, it'll really help you to frame some of the routines that you have in the classroom. So, one of the questions that you can pose to your students is, we're learning to care for our space. So, how can we come together to make sure that we are caring for the space together? We're exploring how communities work. So, what kind of a member of this learning community am I? What kind of a member of this learning community are you, and how are you contributing to all of this? How are we all contributing to this learning community? And one of the other questions that we would like you to keep in mind is, what if the classroom ran on concepts and co-ownership instead of just content and control? So that is something I know that is really hard for teachers, because we've got so many things that we want to achieve in our minds, that it's hard for us to kind of give away that control, because when you do that, sometimes the focus shifts and it can take you in different directions. But having, obviously being sensible in how much control you give, and having that co-ownership, not completely giving up ownership, because we know that we have learning objectives that we need to get through as well. But just being cognizant of how are we sharing that load along with our students, so they're doing the learning as well, and we're all sort of in constructing the knowledge, or co-constructing the knowledge together. Thanks, Emma. Oh, I
Looking
think you're.
for the mute button. Sorry about that, Sana. Absolutely. This is near and dear to my heart, this idea of compliance and control over students and how we want to be co-creating. So that's what I'm going to share with you as you go back into your classrooms in August, September, and you're thinking about, what am I doing in those first few days to build student ownership, to bring that shared responsibility for learning. This is a no-brainer. I love this. And I do it every year. Every new group comes in. We want to co-create that culture with them. This is the building early on that culture that you want. So often, teachers will either start one of two ways, and I do both of these, and now I've stopped doing that. But I used to start with content. I wanted students to go home on the first day with talking to their parents about how they read a piece of literature today. And I've kind of stopped doing that because I want to set the tone for the way our class is together in that beginning. The other way that teachers start is by posting class rules, outlining expectations, and they don't invite the student voice. It really is a front-loaded type of experience. And the consequence for that is that students comply with what you want because they are absolutely wanting to please you. Generally, students want to, and they see what you're asking for and they comply. Or there are students who resist that. But either way, they're not owning the culture. They are not building that culture with you. So those expectations can feel imposed on them, and the classroom dynamics stay really transactional. You know the types, the really nice kids who do everything that you ask for and just comply to get it done, but they're not really involved. So my idea here is that you want to be co-creating the community norms with your students. This centers belonging and shared responsibility at the beginning. It sends the message that this is important to you and this is how we're starting. So in that first week, you're guiding students through simple prompts. What helps you feel safe, seen, and ready to learn in a classroom? Whatever you want that to look like, make it yours. But the idea here is that you're collecting ideas from students, grouping them, categorizing them, naming them, maybe even getting students to categorize them. Things that I've used in the past: speak with care, assume the very best about each other, using technology for learning. These kind of things might appear on that class list. But the importance here is that you are listening to students and letting them create those classroom norms. And we don't call them rules, we call them norms. It's the shared agreement that we decide we want our class to be. After that, then you're going to ask, how do we hold ourselves accountable to that? As opposed to rules and punishment or rules and consequence, now we have norms and accountability. We post these as our class agreement, and then we spend some time in the first few weeks of school. In fact, I do this all the way till October, and I do a refresher when I come back from winter break about which asking students to check in on those. How are we doing? Which are we really living? I've been noticing that we're not really living this norm of listening fully to understand. So we want to come back and revisit those. This is lovely, and it's great to do when you're needing to reset. This idea is going slow to go fast. You want to set this in the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to spend all year doing resets throughout. And this is often one of the sticky points that teachers want to work with me on. They come in at near spring break and they say, I need a reset. I don't know what's going on. And then they have to start again and create norms and do it all over again. So do this early next year, and you will be on your road to better student engagement, ownership, and shared responsibility. So without the top-down control. So those are the two strategies that I wanted to share with you. And we're going to move on to other ones. Sana's going to talk to us about some other simple routines that will help us to shift the load back to students.
So these three routines that I find, they're simple. Again, I go for these simple, things that we can pick up or the teachers can pick up, because I know that teachers' lives are already so busy that we don't want anything too complicated for them. So the first one is we notice, we wonder. The concept that we are trying to target here is observation, curiosity, and the related concepts are perspective or change. So if you're familiar with the IB sort of language, that is something that comes naturally to me. So I always bring in the key concepts and the related concepts from the IB language. You can use this in like a morning meeting, or in the beginning of the day, or during a class provocation, or the lesson that you've just introduced, where you would pose a question: what do you notice? What do you wonder? What does this make you think about? So it's very simple. It's just three simple questions. We notice, we wonder, and once you get used to it, the children will start to share that cognitive load. The ownership in the classroom will shift to the students, where the students will start practicing and initiating this inquiry, and you'll notice that they'll be talking to each other about this using the same language. We notice, we wonder, or I noticed and I wonder. And that really develops curiosity driven habits, and it's great for building learner agency in a low stakes everyday way. Okay. Number two is my turn, your turn, our turn. So in this one, it's very similar to the strategy of I do, you do, we do that many of the teachers use. Again, the concepts that it's targeting is responsibility and community, which is related to interdependence or creating a system in the classroom. You can use this strategy during transitions or cleanup time, or any project that you're doing, that you're working on collaboratively. You would pose the question: what's something that I'm responsible for right now, and what is something that you are responsible for right now, or how can I support my classmate in this, because that's, my turn, your turn. And then our turn is what helps our group or class work well together. So how can we come together and play to each other's strengths to make sure we're supporting each other for a common cause? Again, it's great for that ownership shift, shifting the load and sharing the load with the learners. Students build this self-awareness, they build social responsibility and a sense of classroom as a community. And it turns the basic mundane tasks into concept rich reflections, because the whole classroom is coming together for a common purpose. The last one that I wanted to talk to you guys about is one big idea, one next step. So, this is a great one for coming to or finding closure in your learning engagements or your investigations that are happening in the classroom. You can do this during the end of an investigation or lesson or a project, or you can do it at the end of a day or the end of a week, or when you're culminating a unit. It's the concepts that it's targeting are growth and reflection and change and causation. And it's so simple that I love using this with the students that I work with as well. What is that one big idea that I learned? What is overarching all of this, and what's one step that I want to explore next? So again, it goes with some of the language that I'm used to using, the enduring understanding, and then what actions am I going to take from the knowledge and the learnings that have happened for me. So one big idea, one next step. These are the three to note down. They're so simple, yet they're really impactful, and they're very effective in a classroom setting.
Thank you, Sana. So there you have our go-to strategies, routines for building ownership and sharing that responsibility for learning with your students, as well as creating the relationships and the culture that you want in your classroom. What we'd like for you to do next is a little artsy crafty thing. So I think you're going to like this. We're going to do this too. And this is building a positive outlook card. We've given you those powerful ways to start next year with that ownership and connection. But the truth is that how we start depends just as much on where we're standing when the year ends. So you have done that reflection of the last year, of this past year. And before we go away for summer, we're going to help you capture what's working, what you're proud of, what you want to protect as you move into next year, and what you want to carry forward into that year. So we're going to create a little card that you're going to keep close to you, whether that's in your planner book, taped to your desk. And this will serve as your reminder and your fuel for next year. You're going to pull that out when you need to realign with your values, which for me happens a lot in those first weeks because I'm finding a lot of challenges meeting my new students, my new colleagues, and all the rest. This is going to be your burnout preventer. You're going to have that with you. So let's talk about how this works. And then you guys are going to make that right now. You can do it scratchy on scratch paper or whatever and make it beautiful and decorated on your own later on. On one side, you're going to be writing an accomplishment from this year that you're proud of. You've already done that reflection, so you can just pull that from your reflective piece earlier in this session. You're also going to be putting a simple goal that you'd like to carry into next year. This is not your formal teacher professional goal aligned with school outcomes, KPIs, that kind of thing, but more the teacher heart goal, the thing that lives in your heart is what you really, really want to be working on this year. And then on the back, you're going to be putting either a quote, a reminder, affirmational note to yourself. Asana was talking to me about this as an enduring understanding that you want to carry into your next year. So you might start that with, I understand that I enjoy my work when I am. And so I'm trying to reproduce that feeling throughout the year. We're going to show you a couple examples and we'll leave that on. And then Sana's going to drop a template into the chat that you can download and fill in, or you can just do this on a piece of paper. That's what I'm going to be doing. And we'd like to spend about 6 minutes on this. So we're going to go off camera. We're going to make our card and we invite you to make your card as well. If you need ideas for how that's supposed to look, There you have it. Thank you, AI, for producing those. And this could be what yours might look like. So we invite you to take some time and make that really important anchor for your next year with us now. 6 minutes and go. Take another minute or so. Okay, finish up your last idea there. All right, come back to us. I'm just gonna show you what mine looks like. I'm not super artsy, so this is what mine looks like. I might clean it up, put it on actual cardstock, and put it in my planner book. And there's my kind of enduring understanding. So I've got, these two things here, and this will serve to anchor me as I move forward into my next year. I'm also going to be using this to help me to create a goal, a professional learning goal that's important to me. Sana, do you want to show? Do you have yours?
I've got mine. I don't know if you can see my chicken scratch
Yeah.
handwriting, but the affirmation is sort of in the back that I was still working on. But something that I started this year was having. I'm thinking a lot about leadership, and I started this as part of my goal to ground myself in the decisions that I make and the thinking that I carry forward in meetings and whatnot. To have a chart of leadership indicators and values that are close to my heart. So that is something that, as an accomplishment and as a goal, I can flesh that out a bit more and give concrete examples. And my enduring understanding, which I was about to write, was when I have something that's grounding me in values and objectives and the long term direction that I want to take, then it's easier to make those decisions and ground myself in that thinking. And it's easier to then have a compass of where or how you should look at things, because sometimes if you don't have that, you're sort of a feather in the wind. So that's mine. And I wanted to share, Emma, if that's okay, very quickly. I know we're coming close to at the end, but some of the things that the teachers have come to me about some creative examples of what they would like to do, which are, like you said, Emma, they're not always tied to the KPIs and the school objectives and the directions of the school. Sometimes they are, and that's great, because then you align the two and then you can run with it. But with the whole AI and the advent of the VR headsets and things like that, I had a group of teachers who wanted to, infuse immersive technology in the classroom experience. So that's one goal that they had, and they were so passionate about that. Or launch a class mini podcast is, another one that some teachers came to me and said, "Can we do this?" And it'll really help with our children's, personalities and their language acquisition and their, self confidence and whatnot. And another one was beginning the day with daily positive affirmations. And I just saw that this morning in one of the classrooms. It is so gorgeous and so beautiful. The class sits together, and they had, the day before, they had said these affirmations to the teacher before they left. And then they reiterated and they look at it together of what everyone's, daily positive affirmations are. So I really like that. And I just wanted to throw some examples out there for the audience today, so they can kind of, because it sometimes helps to have examples of what other teachers are doing. Because that's me, I sort of get stuck on, oh, I don't know how to begin. I don't have any examples to kind of help me move forward. Another one is responsive classrooms. A group of our teachers were so passionate about this, they really wanted to bring in a social emotional curriculum into their classroom, so they looked into the responsive classroom. So those are some examples for you, along with what Emma has put on the screen, for coming up with some goals and some enduring understandings that are passionate, that might speak to you and your values.
I
Thanks,
love
Emma.
these. Sure, these are like the little squishy, like teacher. I don't know if my settings are on for that, but like this is the squishy teacher goal things. I love to make these because often we have our official goals and then teachers have that secret goal that lives underneath. And we're going to show you a way that you can bring those two together. So this is the first step in doing that, making sure that you're actually putting it down and you're acknowledging it and you're using this throughout the year when things start to get tough for you, when you're feeling kind of low, reconnect with this, bring it out and really sit in that space for a minute before you move forward. So the last thing that we're going to show you today, and we're not going to walk you through this because this is what we're going to drop to you in the chat as we finish. So you'll make sure you grab that out of the chat before you leave. If you can't see it, if you're watching this on replay, just reach out to Sana or myself and we'll send it to you. This is a way to make this, what we just showed you, official, make it your professional learning goal without having to lose yourself in the professional learning goals, which sometimes can feel a bit dry. You all know many of you use SMART goals, and for teachers, sometimes those feel a little bit mm, not aligned with the way we see our classrooms. So this tool will help you to get something that actually matters to you and your students, not just complete that paperwork. And you're going to use a structure for creating that goal, that official goal that is called peers. This is not mine. This is coming from Jim Knight, who's a expert in coaching and getting teachers to identify goals and strategies and achieving that in their classroom. So through instructional practice. And he says that all of your goals should be written this way. You should write a goal that is powerful, relevant, and makes a difference for students in their lives. Like it must make a difference for students. Otherwise, it's a useless goal. It must be relatively simple and realistic to implement. There's the E for the peers. Emotionally compelling. If you don't care about this goal, your students won't either, and you probably won't achieve it, or you will fake it and check off the tick boxes, and you know how that goes. You need to make sure that it's reachable, so realistic and attainable for your workload and the amount of time you have to devote to that, excuse me. And then student focused. This is the absolute gold of this type of goal setting, and that you're centering your goal on student learning, behavior, or mindset, not on teacher moves, which is our goals that I often see when we do SMART goals. Teachers will write things like, I'm going to do flipped classroom. But this is what you're doing. When you write a goal with peers, you focus on the student learning. You focus on what is going to be different for them in their learning, or what behavior is going to be different, or what mindset do I want changed with the strategies that I'm putting into place. So using this framework will help you to create goals that are aligned with your teacher soul and also fit for your SMART. I'm not going to show you that today because we don't have the time, but it's in the form, the handout that we're going to give to you in the chat. And it basically goes through and aligns the peers with SMART. So you can see that no matter which, if you use peers, you can align it and it can be official, and you can translate that into your SMART goals. And we've given you some things to think about on that too, as you create that professional goal for next year. But that's a job for August, September, and we're now in June. So we're going to leave you with just kind of a recap of what we're giving you as you leave this session. So you've left with this positive outlook card that you're going to be using to anchor yourself as you move into next year. You're going to be getting that professional goal planning tool, which will drop to you in the chat. And also you've got some practical ideas for how to build student connection, the community in your classroom, and ownership straight away, day one from next year. Sana, do you want to add something before we close?
No, I just wanted to say this was absolutely amazing. I hope that you guys got some practical tips and some much needed inspiration towards the end of the school year through this. That was our hope. MA and I we had a lot of fun planning this session, and I really hope that that came across to you guys through all the activities that we did today and all the thinking that we did and the tools that you have with you. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, especially in terms of early years or primary years, and you need support with certain aspects, if you're feeling stuck in terms of teaching and learning, then do reach out. We're here to support you. I know Ma does an amazing job with coaching, and her expertise is secondary. So do reach out if you guys need any support in these areas. And we hope that we can put together sessions like these for fellow educators in the future as well.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for being here today. If you're planning for the year ahead as it gets closer to August, and you want to make your classroom feel a little bit more sustainable for you and your students, that's the heart of the work that I do in my private practice in my Teach Spark. So feel free to check out those resources that we drop. Reach out if you're curious on how to build student ownership in your classroom without overhauling your course, falling behind on content. I'm here for you as a thought partner, and I will have some ideas coming your way. I'm going to be doing another student ownership sprint in the fall, so keep your eyes open on that. Reach out if you want to find out more about how to do that in your classroom without a whole lot of hassle and resistance. We're looking forward to keeping in touch with you, so we'll leave you with our contact information. Sana is going to be dropping that tool for your goal setting for next year, and really enjoyed being with you this afternoon. Have a wonderful summer, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, Emma and I can stick around for a few minutes
Sure.
longer. If not, you've got all the tools are in the chat. I hope you guys are able to access them. If you're not, let us know, and we'll see if there's something wrong with the download. If not, thank you very much for joining us today.